When working with Spring, we can use profiles to conditionally select the various beans and configurations that should be present within our project. This is extremely helpful when dealing with multiple environments and different run configurations. In this lesson, we'll explore how Spring Boot facilitates working with profiles. So to get started, we're going to navigate to the My Message class. Within this class, we're going to remove the component annotation as well as the value annotation. And that's because we're no longer going to component scan for this class. Instead, we're going to declare this class within an application configuration file. So we're going to create a new class and we'll name this class application configuration. And this is going to be a Spring configuration file. So we'll go ahead and add the configuration annotation to our class, and this signifies to Spring that our class is going to declare several beans which will be instantiated inside the Spring IOC container. So we're going to declare our bean annotation, and then we're going to declare a method that returns a type of myMessage, and we'll just name it myMessage. And then within the body of that method, we're going to declare a new variable with the name myMessage, and it's going to be of type myMessage. So we'll invoke the constructor, and then we're going to return myMessage, and we can also set the message value field on the myMessage type. Now, the way we're going to set this value is by using the value annotation and specifying it within our method arguments. So we'll use the expression my.messageValue, and then we will declare a string and we'll call it message value. So we will read the my.messageValue property from our application.properties file, and that will be injected into our myMessage method, and then that will be used to set the message value field on the myMessage object, and that instance will eventually be declared as a bean within our Spring IOC container. The next thing we'll do is duplicate this bean definition, and then we need to do some modifications. So I'm just going to change the method name, and I'm going to remove our argument to this method, and I'll just simply hard code a simple string within our myMessageDev method, and I'll just say this is the dev method. And with that hard-coded string, we now have two different bean configurations for the myMessage type. At this point, we will use the profile annotation from Spring, and we'll import that type, and then we need to provide the name of the profile that will cause this bean to be used. So we're going to call this profile prod, and then we're going to add another profile annotation, and we'll call this profile dev. So we have two bean definitions, and the first will be used when we're running under the prod profile, the second while running under the dev profile. So now we need to go ahead and specify which profile we would like to use. We can do that within the application.properties file. So we can look at the Spring Profiles active property, and we can go ahead and set that to whatever value we would like for our profile. So let's use the dev profile, and that will cause our value that is displayed to be this static message that we have put within our myMessageDev method. So let's go ahead and we'll run our application. So I'll just right click on the project, go to Run As, and then Spring Boot Application. Now, once our application is loaded, we can go to the local host, and there we see the message displayed to us, and we know that that message came from our configuration of the bean that had the static message within it, and that bean corresponds with our dev profile being loaded. So there we were able to conditionally select our bean based upon our profile, exactly what we wanted. And the reason that occurred is because we specified the spring.profiles.active property within our application.properties file. Now, another way to achieve this is to provide a program argument that specifies your preferred profile. So we're going to go to Run Configurations, and within our Run configuration for the Spring Boot application, we're going to define a program argument for the spring.profiles.active property. And we're going to set our profile to prod. So we would like to run under the prod profile, and that will cause our message value to be read from our application.properties file, and that's going to be randomly assigned. And that's because we're under the prod profile and we're using this bean. Now, you may be asking, well, we've defined the property within the application.properties file at the moment as dev. Well, what is going to happen, and we need to make sure that we stop our application to have those changes picked up, but what will happen is the command line arguments or the program arguments are going to override our application.properties setting. So let's go ahead and relaunch our application, and then we can see that if we hit this URL again and everything is properly loaded, we now get a random value as specified in our production profile setting. So we still have a little bit more to talk about with profiles, but at this point we're going to stop and take a break, and we'll pick up where we left off in our next lesson.